get the opportunity to look back at the place that you're from a distance, it changes your perspective of it. Especially being away for an extended period of time. It's different if you're visiting someone. You're away for a couple months. In some instances, you're homesick. Oftentimes now, it almost seems as if people are so interested in proving to someone else that they've been there that they don't take any time out to do something or be present enough in that moment for they themselves to remember what it was like to be there. They're not in the moment enough. They're not present. They're so busy trying to capture the moment. They forgot to be in it. They forgot to live the experience. In some instances, capitalizing on the moment means being in the moment. But being in the moment means something different. Social media is not real life.
You don't think so?
No. How much of your life are you going to bank on luck?
It's like going viral is not a rite of passage. It's being made such a big thing. Like you've made it.
Yeah. And then what?
That's a good question, man. Environment and social environment. How that, talking about growth, what the impact is on that. And how can you proactively customize it?
What do you mean with environment and social environment?
The places you go to, the people you hang around with, these two. You frequent with.
Impact on growth and how you can customize it for.
Maybe just start off with the impact of environment.
Environment partially is responsible for creating culture. The environment is very impactful because it'll change you before you change it. Unless it's an environment that you are creating from scratch.
Would having a startup also be like an example from having creating your own culture?
Having a startup organization. Having a startup organization provides you with an opportunity to create your own corporate culture. Yes. And you can create cultures that facilitate growth, or a culture that facilitates destruction.
What do you think is like? How aware do you think people are of their environment, whether it's healthy or not? The average person.
I think it depends on if you've grown up in that environment or if you have been recently introduced to it. If you grew up in that environment, chances are you may not know. Because it's just, for you it's natural. For you it's a natural way of being in a lot of instances. Not always. Some people are born into an environment that they don't agree with. I'm an example of that. Moving from New York to the Netherlands, seeking an environment that aligns with me internally. So, you can know that innately. I find that in my experience, maybe people knew that innately, but they didn't think that they had another option. And because of that, you lean into the environment. You become more of the environment because you feel like this is the only one available to you. And chances are what happens is you someday realize that there are other options. But by that time, you've become so much of this environment, such a product of this environment, that it's hard for you to make the transition. And because you know that it's a challenge for you to make the transition, I find that a lot of us ran for what we really wanted. Until we didn't. Some people don't ever stop doing it because of fear of the unknownness. It's too much of a barrier of entry for them to give their dreams a chance.
Are you happy with the decision that you made?
I'm super happy with the decision that I made.
Good. Good to hear that.
I'm super happy with the decision that I made. I started becoming happier around year 3. The first 2.5, 3 years, that was a struggle. But around year 3 is when I really started to settle in. It made sense. So, it made emotional sense. And that was almost more important than it being logical. So, yeah, very happy with my decision.
Nice. I'm happy too.
Thank you, my brother.
So back to the environment. Do you think it has changed you?
Yeah, I do think that the environment has changed me. I think that the environment has helped me to understand the world is smaller than I tend to give it credit for, but bigger than I thought it was. Coming from the States, specifically living in New York City, the States has a marketing campaign, an internal marketing campaign, that encourages its people to think that it is the end-all, be-all. It encourages its people to think that the United States is the world. And it's easy to do that because it's a land of immigrants. So you can pretty much find someone from everywhere in the world that are currently living in the United States. On top of that, you have just about every climate. It can be super cold, it can be super warm, it can be dry and warm, it can be humid and warm. It can be dry and cold, low altitude, high altitude. You have the wilderness, you have deserts, you have ocean view, you have rivers, streams, lakes, mountains. You have everything. So it's very easy to feel like, why would I go somewhere else? Why would I travel? Right? And then you also have your own subcultures within America. Right? There's something that pulls all of the people together, but there's also something that makes them all different, which is a beautiful thing. So it's very easy to fall for that marketing campaign, which is part of the reason why prior to the millennial generation, many Americans didn't travel very often. And if you did, you traveled in America. You went to the Grand Canyon, you went to Vegas, you went to Yellowstone Park, you went to, if you did travel, you went to Canada. Right? And that was only if you were in the Northeast, really. And if you were in the South, you went to the Caribbean. Right? It's not traveling very far. So they didn't travel very often. On top of only have 2 weeks of vacation, so typically, you're not gonna go very far anyway. So yeah. And then, so in regard to the world being smaller when we did think about traveling, we thought of it as being like an adventure. Right? If you're like, I'm going to Europe, we thought of that as like, yo, we are turning up. Like, this is far, we going far. And it's like, never really going far. And traveling back and forth between Europe and the States helped me to realize that. Right? And then it helped me to put other things in perspective. Okay, Africa is not too far from here. Right? Northern Africa. But I'm also not too far from New York. I'm also not that far from Iceland. Right? So it helped to put things in perspective a bit. So in that way, it made the world small. It made the world larger in understanding how different people live in different places, how differently people live in different places. How you can go from one metropolitan city to another, and it's night and day. You don't expect that because you think, hey, people are more like me or different. What could be that different? And those small little changes make a big difference. Even here, you go to another city, it's a completely different vibe. Rotterdam is very different from Amsterdam. Utrecht is very different from Rotterdam. Holland is similar to Amsterdam, a little more charming. Amsterdam is a little more rugged than Holland. Right? And then if you go beyond that, to like a city like Zwolle, it's like very different. Right? So the space between these places is not very wide. It's not very long. But the difference in culture creates nuances that separate the people quite a bit emotionally. Yeah. So that's what I mean. In some instances, being here made the world smaller. But in seeing how the nuances of culture can drastically separate people on an emotional level, makes the world feel bigger, makes it feel like there's so much more to learn, there's so much more to experience, there's so much more of a reason to travel, and there's so much more of a reason to grow. And I'm happy about that. And even looking back at the States, when you get the opportunity to look back at the place that you're from a distance, it changes your perspective of it. Especially being away for an extended period of time. It's different if you're visiting someone. You're away for a couple months. In some instances, you're homesick. You're yearning to go back. But I had my mind made where I knew that I wasn't going back home. So there was no reason for me to even, there was no yearning of that for me. I wasn't homesick at all.
Yeah.
But when I look back at the States, I realized how distracted I was when I was there. There are a lot of benefits that capitalism offers you in the way that the States implements capitalism that I didn't take advantage of when I was younger.
Like what?
Like credit. Like having a credit score. And what that can do for your life as an adult. Like really, like having that aspect of economics baked into the system that allows you to leverage other people's resources. Creates a whole nother playing field economically.
Because you don't see that in a lot of different places than the States, really.
No.
I don't hear nobody over here ever talk about.
Because it's not a thing.
Yeah.
There's credit here, but there's no credit score. Some of the benefits that come along with the credit score in the United States doesn't exist here. Here you have the money that you have. That's it. In the United States, you get the opportunity to leverage other people's money. And as long as you play the game correctly, you can do that indefinitely. In fact, the more money you have, the more money you can use from other people.
Yeah, that sounds like the dream.
Yeah, if you're not afraid, and if the only aspect of life that is important to you is money. But once you experience a heightened sense of safety, and the healing opportunities that come along with it, you start to question, is the trade-off for making money worth it? So those things came at the same time for me. Right? Being old enough, experienced enough to understand what this aspect of capitalism was in the States, or is in the States. And also experiencing the level of safety that makes the other aspects that I considered in my life when I was a child real. Right? If it's about credit and economics, then it's about making money. But that's not life. Life is not making money. That's achievement. Well, there's more to life than financial gain. And being able to experience that in a real way, in an environment where there's more balance. Creates a different aesthetic in my life.
You think people also don't travel because like the perceived notion that it's like very expensive?
I think the elderly believe that. But I think the younger generation doesn't so much. But the younger generation almost wants the trip to be expensive. Or at least look expensive. Because of this concept of lifestyle. 5-star this, 6-star that. Michelin star restaurants. You know, eating in a restaurant underwater, sharks swimming by. That's very appealing to the younger generation. To everyone. The opportunities, right? The opportunity to do that is appealing. If you're older, you're probably not going to spend the money to do that. If you don't have it, hopefully you won't do that if you're older. But I think to a large extent, people want a luxurious experience. And then there's other people that really understand what traveling is. So they want to have fun more than they want to be coddled when they go away. And so it's more about connecting with the locals and doing what the locals do. Trying to pick up a little bit of the language and a little bit of the customs of the place. And then moving on and finding another interesting location to do that at. And it's not just about the most luxurious aspects of your travel destination from a materialistic perspective, but more from a cultural perspective. What are the things or what are the experiences that I can have here that are going to add to my character, that are going to help me grow as a person? And not just where can I go to take the best pictures?
I really wonder. I'll be, talking to people. Also, I see it online. It's like the same places that people take pictures at. But I would also notice when I was like, funny enough, like doing like online dating, just girls can have like their hobbies, and all of them, they're kind of like they're very generic profiles. A lot of them, I think, a solid 40-50% are like the same. It's like weights in my heart, food,
Travel.
hobbies, traveling, love language, words of affirmation. I don't know where they learned this, but like, and then that's like that. Those three. If I were to get a penny for every time I saw that profile, I'll be a rich man. But so I wonder like how involved are these people that really in like traveling? If that's really, not everybody is like doing the generic travel, the lifestyle. But if I see like that combination of like hobbies and passions and whatnot, I'm making that link of like, yeah, you a lifestyle enthusiast, which is nothing wrong with inherently.
I think it's important for us to be more selective with our words. What does it mean to be a lifestyle enthusiast? I understand what that means on social media, but there's a multitude of lifestyles. Right? Fun is a lifestyle. Acting like you have things that you don't have. Or leading with those things. Leading with the luxurious materialistic items as opposed to some real value. Something that can really inspire people. Really inflict change. Because ultimately that's what travel is about. Not just saying you've been somewhere. There's so many people that travel but haven't actually experienced the place. They've been there. It's like celebrities that go on tour. Right? They come to this, they go down, they perform. But really they're in and out of Amsterdam. In some instances, they don't even spend a night.
Or they don't leave the hotel.
Right. So have you really been there? Or were you just passing through? In a lot of instances, it's just passing through. You spent all this money to take a picture. We just came back from Santorini. So many people there just taking pictures, my brother. Just taking pictures. So people at the table together, they're not really together. Each of them are just trying to get the best angle for the picture. Spotting seats, It's interesting to see. Oftentimes now, it almost seems as if people are so interested in proving to someone else that they've been there that they don't take any time out to do something or be present enough in that moment for they themselves to remember what it was like to be there.
Like almost like take like a memory snapshot.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not in the moment enough. They're not present enough. They're so busy trying to capture the moment, they forgot to be in the moment. They forgot to live the experience.
I had so she posted something on her story saying like I'm almost throwing up at the idea of the old me living in the moment instead of capitalizing on it. And I was like, nah, that can't be.
That makes sense though. Once you get into business, even in life, it's all about that. In some instances, capitalizing on the moment means being in the moment. But being in the moment means something different, depending on what the situation is. If you're traveling and you're on the beach, being in the moment may be being present, being still. Just taking in this view, thinking about your life, being appreciative. Thinking about how you're going to move forward in a way that's conducive to the lifestyle that you want to have, the person you want to become. If you had a networking event, that's not the intention.
Just someone in the middle of the room, just like standing there, hand on his hip, just looking around the room.
Yeah, that may not be the intention. Right. So there may be a moment that you have while you're in the networking event and say, man, I remember all the work that I was doing in the past trying to get here, and now I'm actually here. And that may be a moment of reflection that brings about a similar feeling as the one that you could have on the beach by yourself. But after that, you get back in tune with what the objective is at this networking event. In both instances, you're capitalizing. In both instances, you're being present. But how that looks based on the situation is very different. This woman is an influencer. So as an influencer, capitalizing on the moment is, especially if you're an influencer that's focused on lifestyle, it's making sure that you capture the moment, you
Enhance the moment,
so you enhance the moment, but essentially is you are the moment, right? That's what you want to be as the influencer. As an influencer, you are the moment. They missed the moment. That's one. Right? They missed out on something major in life. That's the idea of being an influencer. You are the event. You are the moment. Yeah. So, nothing wrong with what she's saying. That's what we're all trying to do. It just looks different in different situations. And it's different for different people.
Mm-hmm. What I also don't see is like a lot of people. Remember when you was like out with like eating with your friends or family, and you asked like the waiter to take a picture, to have like the group moment, just like have like one picture, and you send it to like everybody. I don't see that happening a lot anymore. What I see is like the video of like showing the table and the people you with, kind of that like panoramic video. I see that everywhere on my stories, on my timeline, but not like all right, let's all take one moment be like, all right, we're here together, picture, and then just go on about our night?
I see both. I see both. So,
I'll see you in a minute.
but also, social media is not real life.
You don't think so?
No. It's not real.
Can you explain?
There's no aspect of it that's real. In most cases.
It's all like fabricated.
It just doesn't happen this way. Right? The yacht on social media is not the yacht in real life. One, you may not actually even, that might not be your yacht. Let's start there. The person whose yacht that is may not even know you're on it. The yacht might be parked. You decide, let me sneak on the yacht just to take this photo. But it looks like you're on a yacht you're comfortably on a yacht, almost as if there's some type of event or someone who invited you on the yacht, or you just made it to a point in life where you could purchase your own yacht. How it looks on the screen, even if you are there and you putting the camera around, typically is not the way it feels when you're there. What you see on social media, in some instances, yes, it's real. It's what you see in life. But the context is different. Right? Simply because life is curated differently. Right? And seldom do people even look the same in real life that they do on social media. In some instances, they look better. In some instances, you may not think so. But either way, they look differently in most cases.
Yeah. And what baffles me now is that, like,
The whole landscape of like the influencer is that not only do they not look like their pictures oftentimes, that's not even what they really look like. Period. Like that's not their because I feel like they all look so similar to each other.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And that's not natural. So a lot of them, it's not, I thought it was only like BBLs that's like shown, but it's like the face.
Everything. But it's also filters.
Filters too, but like, I'm talking about like, I saw this one girl, she had like, I'm not even that pretty, I just did this to my face. And it's like, yo, she got her whole face rebuilt. And then I started thinking, like, I see her face so often that I'm like, really, all these people got their face done?
It's the mold. They're trying to fit the mold. So again, it's not real. It's not how it happens in real life. It's not how people show up in real life. There's so many instances where you have young ladies and young attractive women that are on social media. You know what I'm saying? They're looking at the photo and they're making videos about it. They're like, look at me here. This looks amazing, right? And then they take a photo. It's like, this is me in real life. And it's like night and day. And they're still attractive young ladies. But they don't fit this particular mold.
What do you
But at
think?
least they're calling it out.
Yeah, that's no. What do you think is like the long-term effect of that?
I think we've seen depression, we've seen death, we've seen, when I say death, I mean people dying on the table, on the operating table. Right? In the process of getting a BBL or what have you, a tummy tuck or whatever. We've seen mistakes being made and people being severely damaged because they were trying to go get a filler that went wrong or whatever. We've seen suicide because if you're not getting the attention that you want, you feel like you're worthless. Higher rates of isolation. More interested in curating the life for the gram than living a real one. Fewer meaningful relationships. Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, how does that yeah, where does that come from, imposter syndrome, you think?
Because I think it's very normal to have that. I've had that too.
I think it's normal to have a lot of these feelings. But it's social media exaggerates it. It's normal to feel less than at times. It's normal to feel isolated at times. It's normal to feel invalid. It's normal to feel rejected. Those feelings are just part of life. Right? But when you don't want to go outside anymore, because you've been posting on social media all of what you believe to be the greatest photos, and you haven't been getting as many likes as you would like to get, and so now you believe that you're less worthy as a human being. So you want to isolate yourself from the world indefinitely. It's a different thing. Plastic surgery wasn't as common before as it is now. People are not really getting that much more money. You have poor people going to get BBLs now. Plastic surgery was once something that was reserved for the rich. If you had a little bit of money, you wanted to save it or invest it because you had a little bit of it. You didn't really have disposable income. But now, looking a certain way is a hustle. If I look this way, then I can get these things. That may happen for a few, but not for everyone. And for the people who it's not happening for, what are the effects? Even the people that it's happening for. Short term, you may feel good. Seldom are shortcuts long term.
Definitely.
Yeah, the surgeries also, I think they see now as like an investment.
Exactly.
Because now you can't become an influencer.
Exactly.
You can become a model. You can become an OnlyFans model.
Exactly.
Which I was shook at how much that pays a certain percentage. The top OnlyFans models are millionaires.
The top OnlyFans models.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard one girl, she made in 2 years, she made $4 million.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. That's a lot of money. To me, it's a lot of money. To make in 2 years?
If you're saying that to say that there's reason for them to make the investment, I agree. Especially if you don't feel like you have anything to lose. But at the same time, does our young generation have the critical thinking skills to really assess their lives?
What makes you ask that?
What we see happening. Yeah. Not to say that it's wrong or right. It's your body. You get to decide what you want to do with it. But what are the type of questions that you ask yourself before you make a decision? What is the thought process? I want to make money. There's only but so many strippers. There's only but a few top slots for OnlyFans. Porn doesn't pay the way that it used to.
I think another thing is is like an entry into places.
It is. But it doesn't keep you there.
Well,
And you're being invited it's a question. Are you being invited for the right reasons? Yes, oftentimes we're told just get in the door is all you need, and then you can, once you're in the room, you can figure it out. Are you equipped with the tools to figure it out once you're in the room? So, what's going to keep you there? Another BBL.
sometimes it does.
Sometimes it does. So,
I think this is where
what I'm saying is how much of your life are you going to bank on luck? That's really the question. Right? Yes, it could happen for you. Yes, I'm not knocking the hustle. I get it. What is the likelihood?
That's a good question. I wish they had stats for it.
So, in general, you can look good. That's good. It also is like, who do you become in that process? Because you can go to the gym and look better as well. You can eat better and look better as well. You can sleep properly and look better as well. You can figure out ways to keep your stress levels low. You can increase your skill set. You can entertain your talents a little bit more. You can become much more financially literate. That takes longer. But eventually, when you do get into that room, you'll get into that room as the person that you need to be, to stay in that room. Because now you have something to contribute to the people in the room. Not to say that if you get the BBL, you don't. I'm just saying, to what extent? And how long is that alone going to keep you in that room?
Yeah.
Because if you become the woman that you really can be, that innately you know you should be, you won't need to be invited to anybody's room. They'll be asking you for invitations to yours. I think that that's the part that the younger generation is missing. Because everything now is instantaneous. I grew up in the age where everything happened right away. Right? Not actually in life, but online. And being online to the younger generation, to a large extent, is life. So it's harder for the younger generation to distinguish between the two.
It's like going viral is such a it's like not a rite of passage. It's being made such a big thing. Like you've made it.
Yeah. And then what?
That's a good question, man. Sometimes it leads to like that, and that's also I think the reason why a lot of these people are going like these shows is like reality shows, like they. Cause I always thought that paid a lot, going on these shows. Really, it doesn't. Really, it's you getting paid what you could have made in 2-3 months of work, and now you make it in 2 weeks. But what comes with it is the becoming the a TV personality, but not even that. It's the influencer that you become from these shows. And what then the question was like, and then what? It's the easy way to get money because you get like they hope to get like brand deals.
I understand the idea behind it. I understand the investment that's being made. It's just, are you prepared for the opportunity? In some instances, the answer is yes. In a lot of instances, the answer is no. So how do you increase your chances? Not increase the chances of touching money, but making sure you can really get a grip of it and multiply it, keep it. But I also understand, in a lot of instances, the younger generation doesn't know what they don't know. So they don't know what to ask. They don't know what to do. And so they actually have to have the experience to gain the exposure to the lesson, so that hopefully further down the line they will know what to do. But it's about mindset. How are you approaching your life? Is there any self-development that's happening? Not financial development, not physical enhancements, but real self, who you are developing.
Why do you think that's needed?
Because without it, it's very hard to guarantee. You can never guarantee, but it's very hard to experience success. It's very hard to even experience accomplishment because you don't understand the science of it. So, going viral. Do you have something to sell? Because eventually that's what it's about. If all of y'all look the same, if everybody in the culture speaks the same, dresses the same, then now you have to create a brand. Because that's what's going to distinguish you from the person standing next to you. Because if I just look at y'all, y'all pretty much identical. At least conceptually. Y'all both look like influencers. That's like a look. Like when you see young girls in the street, it's like, oh, that's an influencer look. That's like Instagram beauty. They went to their Instagram beauty school to figure out how to do that. And what distinguishes you? If that's the approach that you're going to take. There's only but so many brand deals. You have your own product. You have your own service. You have your own company. So, what's behind that? There's so many models that don't get work, even prior to Instagram. Excuse me. There were so many models who, yeah, they were models, legit. And they may have even been very good looking. But can you model? It's one thing to be pretty, it's another thing to be a model. Can you model?
Yeah.
Can you speak without speaking? Can you pose poetically? Can you take instruction? Are you coachable? Is there some type of personality behind this so that when we put you on the red carpet, you're captivating? Rihanna's Rihanna not because of her talent alone. There's a lot of people that may not even think Rihanna's talented. Right? Or at least they think there are other people who are more talented, but less popular.
I think it's a very general consensus about like superstars. Anyways.
No, Michael Jackson was Michael Jackson.
But that's like one in a generation though. Alright, maybe Prince and
Beyonce is Beyonce.
Yeah.
She pretty much does everything. She can dance, she can really sing. Her performance is on a whole nother level. Personality. Personality is what makes Rihanna Rihanna. Rihanna doesn't have to sing. Rihanna doesn't have to dance. And if she does dance, you can see that she really knows how to dance. She doesn't even have to choreograph it. She has star quality as an individual because of her personality. So there's something behind it.
The final thing that I
see myself with these influences is female influences is that they see themselves as like an accessory to someone's already lavish lifestyle. Like if there's some man who is already successful,
Yes.
like the missing piece is a nice looking lady next to them. And I think that's also one of the reasons why they get that look, because then they can look good next to the person that is already in that lifestyle. So maybe for all these years they front that lifestyle until it becomes a reality made possible by someone else. Just an observation, but I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Keen observation. True. That's our fault. That's men's fault. It's in a society where men don't know how to be men, women follow suit. So as a man, if you spread the message of, whether it be verbally or non-verbally, a woman being an accessory in your life as opposed to a necessity in your life, that misleads the youth. And that's been happening for some time. Partially due to television.
Really?
Indeed. Because in your life, you may have some people that can tell you right from wrong. In a lot of instances, we do have that. But as we age, we begin to move further away from the household. What's outside becomes much more impressionable than what's inside. So the objective is to make sure that we instill into our children formidable concepts that help to build their character throughout their formative years. So that when they find themselves being interested in jumping off the porch, they do so with a solid foundation of who they are and with. What's fundamental for a healthy relationship between they themselves and the world. No one is a necessity in someone else's life. Male or female. And perhaps the sooner we understand that, the better off we'll be. It's a man being successful and a woman being beautiful. Was deemed a logical interpretation of the union between men and women. It was not the foundation. It's really not even fundamental. Because both partners should be beautiful. At least to each other. Both parties should provide for each other. Both parties should protect each other. That's what creates a strong union. Not just one person. Granted, there's a hierarchy. But you do life together. And life itself is more inspirational than looks. So in a lot of instances with successful men, yes, a woman is the missing piece. But not because of how she looks. But because of the depth that a woman can bring to a man's life when she understands herself enough and he understands himself enough to understand the importance of them being together. But not because of what he can provide for her materialistically or what she can offer to him physically. But again, I blame men for that. Because as the leaders in society, we could have done a better job at communicating truth. As opposed to entertainment. For selfish reasons. Or rather, short-term gain. Short-term personal gain that didn't benefit the whole, that didn't benefit the family. Because that actually hurts the next generation. So we end up being weaker over time. The objective as a man is to make sure that you provide everything that's necessary so that what comes after you is stronger than you, is better than you, utilizes the resources differently, is able to look at life differently, with much more of a keen perspective, not to go backwards, just so you could feed your ego. And a lot of this messaging has come from them. This messaging of a woman being an accessory, being degraded to an accessory, and not acknowledged as a necessity, which is truth. It doesn't degrade you as a man to uplift your woman. It actually helps you. It helps the union. It helps the family. Should you provide for your woman? Of course you should. But that means different things in different instances. And the objective of a man is to be able to oblige each one of those things in each one of those instances. Not to find ways where he can be serviced with minimal contribution. We like to call ourselves king, but few people are willing to live up to that title. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Why? Because you have a lot to consider. So, when I hear women saying that today, it's not surprising. Especially if you look around at men and what men are saying. Men are not correcting the argument. One, because we care to argue. Instead of understanding that the way to understanding is to disarm, to diffuse the situation. But we're not interested in doing that because we're not interested in correcting ourselves. We're all saying the same things about each other. If you listen to what men and women are saying, it's the same. This issue that men and women seem to be having with one another, we're saying the same things. What are those things? I'm not seen. I don't feel seen. I don't feel heard. And I don't feel like what I'm saying means anything to you. That's what it comes down to. So, if you're going to call yourself a leader, let's not do that when it's when it's convenient. Let's do that all the time. And that's really when leaders rise to the occasion, when it's inconvenient, when it's unfortunate, when you don't feel like doing it. So, there's a lot of things that come with being a man. A lot of things we don't speak about. And that's part of the problem. So, I blame men for that.
I think we should talk more amongst each other, but also like to our counterparts, or both.
Because at a certain age, after a certain age, you're not fooling anybody. In a lot of instances. In some instances, yes, men have played the role really well. This role of being Superman and being invincible. To the point where there are a lot of women who, especially in past generations, didn't even know men had emotions. They didn't think that was a part of being a man, literally. It's not that men were suppressing the emotion. They legitimately thought men did not have the emotional capacity to have feelings. Because a lot of men played the role that well. But lying doesn't make you a leader. Poor training makes you a bad one.
Training in what way?
Training the next generation. How I live my life informs the next generation of how they can live theirs. How am I living my life? They're either going to do exactly what you do, or they're going to try to do exactly the opposite. More than likely, they're going to do what you do. We oftentimes hear people saying, be the change that you want to see. By the time most of us hear that, we've long surpassed our formative years. And your subconscious was developed watching or receiving misinformation, whether verbally or non-verbally. So you don't end up actually being the change you want to see. You end up being a remix of what you've seen in the past. Unless you consciously, ferociously make an effort to be something else. And that takes a lot of energy. And oftentimes people don't even realize that they're being what they've seen. Typically it takes your child saying something to you and you kind of reflecting on what you wanted to say to your mom or your father. And you realize, man, I did the same thing to my child that my parent did to me. Usually it's somebody else bringing it to your attention. Because people don't want to. People are so distracted. People are distracted with life and living. Like to think about thinking is not common. Someone to say, I'm going to think about this tomorrow. I'm going to set aside time to think. That's not common.
I think that comes back to something we spoke about once. People not really sitting in solitude anymore.
No. Not to think, at least. Maybe to be depressed. maybe to come up with reasons as to why they should be depressed. Thinking is now is like a byproduct of life. Used to be an intentional aspect of life. But that happened when we replaced the study with the man cave. We used to go in people's houses and their house was like a mini library. Now instead, you go downstairs and it's a couch, a big couch, and a ping pong table, and every gaming console that you can think of, and it used to be a bunch of movies. Now it's just Netflix, Hulu, and HBO, and all of these things to distract us, all of these things to really to train us. Because what entertains you trains you. There's no way you just like that song that much and it's not impacting your life. There's no way I'm watching movies of constant violence and shoot 'em up in every song, and that's not having an effect on my life. So as a man, are you addressing your life consciously? Are you standing guard at the gate of your life? Making sure that, to the best of your ability, only things that actually serve you are the things that you ingest. Because if I'm out here MOB, money over everything, my bitch is bad, just look at my wife, look at my wife, look at my wife, then everything becomes about the aesthetics. Because that's the only way that I can bypass the value of money in his mind. Because he just said money over everything. He was out here yelling MLB. But at the same time, he was like, my bitch bad. So the only way for me to get close to him is to be a bad bitch.
You have a man in a moment, right? And a man doesn't feel validated until he earns a status and has a certain amount of financial means. And the woman doesn't feel validated until she got the looks. So instead of them meeting at the perceived bottom and building something together, they want to meet at the top, perceived top, which is not an actual mountain. It's just like make-believe.
Because then they feel they have actual value. They have something that they can bring to the table. Why would somebody want to be with you if you have nothing to bring to the table? Why would you want to be with someone else? How can you confidently approach someone if you have nothing to offer them? So it's not even about the other person and what they're asking of you. It's about your pitch. And if you feel like you don't have anything to pitch, why would you even consider the idea of being in a relationship with someone?
That's a good question.
That's why you see a lot of people fronting, spending their last on sneakers and clothes. Doesn't mean anything. But it shows, well, hopefully it doesn't really show anything, to be honest. But hopefully when you look at it, you can see someone who cares about themselves, at least a little bit. Who's trying to appeal to you at least a little bit, so they must care about you too, at least a little bit. At least enough for y'all to share an experience together. And whether y'all stay together or not, is less relevant than the potential growth that can come from the experience of each other, for each other. So you don't stay with that person unless they see something in you. And if you don't see it in yourself, it probably is not going to work. Even if they do stay with you for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Or even if you do stay with them for a short period of time. So a lot of people are not comfortable with the journey itself of learning oneself and having the experiences that reintroduce one to oneself and seeing or being exposed to the intrinsic value that you have. A lot of people are not comfortable with that in private. So the chances of them being comfortable with that in public or with another person to see, to critique, are very slim. So, and that's a multitude of relationships.
Yeah.
It's not just men and women, it's also men and men. And what I mean when I say that is it's not just romantic relationships. It can be platonic relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's when I was reading in his book, and it says that a lot of our habits really come from our innate instincts, meaning you might not be, even though you scroll a lot and you think you got that addiction of social media is really a need for validation, where that comes from, or a need for social connection. And realizing that I haven't really thought about it too deeply yet, but I feel thinking about it, it puts it a lot more in perspective. Meaning I can now recognize my yearning for connection and seek that in a healthier way that doesn't involve social media or any other addiction that goes paired with that.
I think that's a blessing. To be able to acknowledge that and make the conscious decision of exploring other opportunities to fulfill that basic human need in a real way and not a fabricated, virtual way.
I notice it now that I think about it. I notice that my phone use, actually social media activities, gone up so much since COVID. Before that, I wasn't really on it. I had it from time to time. I was looking, but I wasn't really delved in like that. But I feel like ever since COVID happened, really, I feel like I could easily have doubled how much I use it.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's just a matter of, if we expand that idea, then we can ask ourselves, was it really COVID? Or was it isolation?
No, isolation.
And what am I looking for? Am I just looking for an interaction, or am I looking for a connection?
Connection.
Okay, well, how many people have you actually connected with? Not people have you interacted with, like
Since COVID, you mean? Or during COVID?
before, during, and after. Like there's people who they had a squad before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened. They either went back to their squad, if they still have it, or they didn't, because they no longer have it. But is it real connection? Some people are making real connections on social media. Some people are finding their husbands and wives on social media. Right? It's all a matter of what your intention is and how you use it. But if I'm not using social media prior to COVID, did I really have solid relationships? Or did I just have interactions and that was what I needed? I got my fix for my interactions with people, because your relationships that you still have, that are still solid, they were always solid. But there's some relationships that are different. There's some relationships that didn't survive COVID. And those were a lot of the people that you were hanging out with prior to COVID. And so, did those relationships have substance? Probably not. Your phone use, your screen time, your time on social media during COVID. Did you really make any real connections? Not many. And now, am I still kind of doing what I was doing in COVID because it became a habit? Did I revert back to what I was doing prior to COVID? Right. In a lot of instances, yes, it stems from human connection and validation, etc. But how many people are really validating us in a real way? How many people are validating us with substance? Right. Meaning, after the like, what do I get? After the comment, what do I get? Is there any ongoing connection between me and this person? Is there any community here? Or is it just a comment? So, a lot of the habits are based around just interacting with someone, not actually developing a relationship, because again, a lot of the people in general, it's not just the younger generations, a lot of people are afraid of it. They're afraid of what it brings, or what it could potentially bring. But those things happen anyway. And oftentimes, in trying to run from it, you prolong it. Right? Because there's a lesson in it. You prolong receiving a lesson, so you actually experience more pain. And then when it actually happens, it's more painful as well. Because now there's more baggage attached to it. So, I say this almost as if people are trying to use social media as a way around real life. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Because it's not real.
It's not real. It's not real. So,
You think people like will go back to the age where we'll go back to the real, to the genuine?
And age. I'll process that two ways. Meaning, is there a time when society will make that shift? I think different age groups make that shift. And after you kind of have had the experience of social media, I think this is the age of social media. Right? Like this is the first wave of this. Maybe it'll change in the future. It won't look like this. Right? Maybe it'll be something that feels a little bit more organic. And not just us posting pictures or videos or writing sentences in the ether that other people can view. Because at the end of the day, it becomes a business play. That's the reason why impact really matters. That's the reason why a platform would push it. Because a platform is promoting the people who have more impact. So indirectly, the platform itself is almost sponsoring the depression that people feel when they feel invalidated. So this is partially also what feeds this human need for connection. The platform is pushing this certain brand because this brand is making it more money. But the average person doesn't understand that. The average child, the kid, doesn't understand that. They just think this person is more popular than they are because this person is better than they are. And that can be a medium for low self-esteem. Not realizing that the whole thing was a business play. Because at 16 years old, most are not thinking that way. Most are personalizing everything.
I feel like most 20-year-olds, most 25-year-olds, neither. They don't see that.
Indeed. Indeed.
It's I don't know too much about it, but I feel like really the ones that are like less, are like once you have a certain number of like following, and you can like generate money, like the Kardashians, for instance, your shit will keep growing. But I feel like if you have not, you're stagnated. And I feel like for a lot of people, that's like, yo, I stagnated in life.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's a tough existence, man. Not tough. It's an easy existence because you're not.
No, it is tough. Because you're trying to make something real that's not real. That's a tough one. When you realize it's not real, you can use it for what it's for. When you think it's real, you try to use it for what it was not made to be used for.